Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I'm Valerie. I'm a software engineer, and in this video, which was highly requested, I'm going to talk about how I funded my software engineer career as a broke college dropout. First of all, let me provide some background. I come from a lower middle class family. I was studying economics in college, and my tuition was mostly funded by grants or scholarships, but I did have to take out some student loans. After a few years, I realized that economics wasn't the right fit for me. I decided to drop out and figure out what I really wanted to do with my life. And I didn't tell my parents that I dropped out because I knew they would be really disappointed in me, so I was going to figure it out on my own until I could do something or be someone that they were proud of. Even after I dropped out, I was still living on campus and I worked at Target for a few months and saved up some money. I was also investing some of that money in cryptocurrencies and it ended up paying off. That gave me some financial cushion to take the risk and move to San Francisco, a place where I knew I would have access to more opportunities. I found a small bedroom on the far side of San Francisco for about $1,500 a month, and this was in 2018. I took on a full-time job as a barista to make ends meet, and I kept an eye out for different career paths that would allow me to live a more sustainable life in the city. My barista job at the time was paying $15 an hour minimum wage in San Francisco, and I took every opportunity to work extra shifts to make some more income, but it wasn't enough to cover my expenses. At this time, I obviously still didn't want to tell my parents that I had dropped out of school yet because I'm working a barista job. It's not like an Asian parent's dream job for their child. So my parents were still sending me money for rent and food, which was only around $1,000 a month. I had to lie to them because I knew that they wouldn't support my move to San Francisco to find a new path, because in their mind, if you get a degree, you can find a good job, but I don't think that applies in this economy anymore. But that is a whole video on its own. Let me know if you want me to talk about that. Back to the main points. So with $15 an hour, my tax bracket was around 12%, so I received about $2,000 after taxes in income each month, and with the $1,000 from my parents, I had in total around $3,000 to live off of. And of course, San Francisco is a small but really dense city. I took public transportation everywhere to save on costs. I was being pretty frugal, and like all of these things that I'll get into is what helped me survive in San Francisco. While I was working as a barista, I mentioned this in my most popular video, I stumbled upon a free coding bootcamp. It was intense and required a full-time commitment, but I knew this was my chance to learn new skills, become a software engineer, and be able to work in tech. So I quit my job as a barista because I wouldn't be able to work that job and go to the boot camp at the same time. And I quit my job as a barista and threw myself into the coding boot camp. That was very risky, but I don't know, I sort of had faith in myself and the universe. While I was working as a barista, they had a really good health insurance plan for employees, so when I quit my job, I didn't have any more health insurance, so I made sure to go see my doctors and ask for refills on my prescription medication and anything else I needed before the long haul, because I knew I wouldn't have health insurance for some time. And of course, I didn't have any other source of income during these months. I had to be very frugal and resourceful. I even ended up using credit cards to pay for basic expenses like food, utilities, necessities, and I used the public library to borrow books and courses, and I attended a lot of hackathon events to learn new things. So it's about using what you have at your disposal instead of like being a victim and complaining that you don't have what you need to succeed. I definitely used what I had around the city, resources that the city provided, what I had at my disposal, friends, my mentors at the coding bootcamp, things like that. Just use what you've got is my advice. As we all know, credit cards have really high interest rates, and knowingly, I accumulated credit card debt over time. I paid the bare minimum each month to avoid missing a payment, and I used my savings to pay the bare minimum. I knew that I didn't want to use my savings to pay for expenses because it wasn't very much, and so I really needed to stretch my savings, and the way to do that for me was to use credit cards and just pay the bare minimum each month. After the coding bootcamp, I landed my first software engineering position. I was an iOS engineering intern. The internship was 3 months and they paid me $40 an hour, and I worked the full 40-hour work week. So the internship paid well, and that's when I finally told my parents that I had dropped out of school and I am working at a job with a lot of potential and I'm making good money. So they stopped supporting me financially. And I really thought that this internship was my big break, that I would get a return offer, I would get to make 6 figures. And so I started paying off my credit card debt with the money I was making and some of my savings too, so that I could stop paying credit card interest, which is an insane amount, like 25%, 20%, crazy amounts. So that's what I was doing during my internship. And then when they didn't give me a return offer, I was shocked, and that meant that I had to find another job really quickly, or else I would miss a payment or not be able to pay rent. So this experience taught me a valuable lesson, and I've been more cautious with money since. It was tough because I now did not have any job and my parents weren't supporting me. So I had no streams of income and I had to rely on credit cards to get by again. I desperately needed to borrow money, so of course I went to my parents and I asked them. Since they weren't happy that I didn't get my degree, they wanted me to go back to school. So I was like, no, I'm not going back there. And they were also like, no, then we're not giving you any money. I was really angry with them and didn't talk to them for a while. I sold all of my crypto, and this was when the market was down as well. So I sold at a loss because I really needed the money. I had to liquidate those assets to pay for rent and the credit card payments. And to stretch my money even further, I moved into a closet in San Francisco for $800 a month. Yep, I did that. It was a 6 by 8 foot closet. It was just room enough to sleep in and have some of my clothes and stuff, and that was it. And of course I could use the shower in the house, but that was my space. And we all have to make sacrifices sometimes for the long term. So this closet that was $800 a month was half the price of my previous rent. So that allowed me to save more money, and it gave me more time to find a job. The place that I lived in was down the street from a coffee shop. So I would go there all the time to use the Wi-Fi, to do work, to job hunt, and do research and study and prepare for interviews. Despite the challenges, I persevered for 4 uncertain months. I found another internship that wasn't as well paying as the first one, but I was desperate and needed the income. So this second internship was paying less at $32 an hour instead of $40 like the previous internship, which was still fine. But the engineers I worked with at this company, they were way more collaborative, and they were really good mentors. So I'm really grateful for that. This internship was also a longer duration. It was 6 months instead of 3 months. Because of how the first internship went, I learned my lesson and decided not to pay off all the credit card debt right away. Instead, I just kept paying the bare minimum amount until I was truly financially stable. I saved more money as I was working and only ate free lunch provided by the company. I took extra lunch home as dinner and bought protein bars from Costco for the times when I was hungry. This helped me stay on track with my finances and not put too much pressure on myself to pay off the debt quickly. The little savings that I had saved up over those 6 months allowed me to survive the unexpected job market downturn when the mass layoffs happened in 2020. When the mass layoffs happened, I was competing with all the software engineers who were laid off, those who had a lot more experience than me, and of course, other software engineers, like entry-level software engineers. I had less experience than these people, and this was a time when I faced months of doubt, fear, and worry about being able to stay in San Francisco and find a full-time job. By the end of it, I had racked up almost to more than $20,000 in credit card debt between like 2 credit cards. One of my credit cards had like $14,000 credit limit, and then the other one was like a $10,000 credit limit. So it was between these 2 cards that I was using that I had racked up paying for expenses and living costs for around 2 years. So during the job hunt, I would apply everywhere, do a ton of interviews. I dedicated myself to mastering my skills and became highly proficient in my niche. The competition was fierce and I wasn't sure if I was going to succeed, but I persisted and eventually landed a full-time job at a major tech company as a software engineer. I finally started earning like the 6-figure salaries that most tech professionals do, and I used my signing bonus to pay off a big chunk of the credit card debt, and over the year I managed to pay off the rest of the credit card debt. And now I am in a net positive position with over 800 on my credit score, and everything is good right now. So yeah, this was my journey going from broke to making a healthy 6 figures. I feel a need to mention this because I think people will wonder. So I was able to still have a good credit score, like in the 750s, even when I had $20,000 in credit card debt, because I kept paying the minimum amount. If you miss a payment, that's like a dock on your credit score. But I never missed a payment, and I think that's why it stayed at a healthy level. If you miss a payment, I don't know. I think it'll go down a lot. Don't take my word on that, because I was really worried about missing a payment, so I didn't let that happen. But now my credit score goes up because I use a lot less on my credit cards and I have a higher credit limit, so that means that the credit utilization percentage goes down, and that if it's like below 15%, then your credit score will be pretty good. In summary, I didn't have anyone to rely on, and what I did have to rely on was credit cards as a form of a loan to help me fund my dreams, basically. I didn't give up when things seemed to be going terribly. I attribute my success to my determination, daily efforts, and belief in myself, and the power of the universe. I found my path and I paved it myself, and I'm really proud that I can say that. I didn't rely on my parents, and I risked it all to be where I am. It's hard to believe that I lived in a closet to pursue my dreams. That is some dedication. I'm proud of myself for never giving up on the journey, despite the financial instability and ups and downs. Through this experience, I've grown and I've learned that I can overcome anything. So if you're truly determined, you'll find a way to remove any excuses from your life and make things happen. So keep pushing through difficult times and you will eventually reach your goals. If you found this video motivational or helpful, hit the like button and subscribe, and be sure to leave me a comment. I'd love to know where you are on your journey, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!